Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he and him, and I will be your GM tonight for our game of Rebel Crown, written by Michael Dunn O'Connor and Eric Swanson of Narrative Dynamic Games. And we are playing specifically the Oak campaign. These two neat little zines, wonderful. We've been having a ton of fun. This is our grand finale. We'll see what comes of Queen Shaban Derek's retinue. And with that, let's meet our players. And yeah, I'm just going to go around in the order you showed up, which is the order on the bottom of my screen. So, Jax, would you like to introduce yourself? Just name, pronouns, and anything else you might care to share.
Yes, hi, hello. I'm Jax. I use they, them pronouns. You can follow me on Twitter at JaxJThomas if you wanted to.
Wonderful. Jason, do you care to introduce yourself?
I'm Jason. I use he, him pronouns. That's it.
And Alexi?
Hello, I'm Alexi Sargent, he, him. You can follow all of my gaming endeavors online at Cloven Pine Games.
Wonderful. And finally, Josh.
Yeah, hi, I'm Josh, he, him. Yeah, that's my two things.
Good deal. All right. Tonight we are playing with some safety tools. We are using the X card. The X card lets anybody say X or go like this in front of the camera or write X card in the chat or any other way of communicating that you are invoking the X card. And some piece of the fiction will be excised, removed. No justification required. I may ask a question or two just to make sure I understand what is being X carded so that it can be successfully avoided. The second set of safety tools really we're using are some of Bo Sheldon's suite of script change tools. That includes rewind, which lets you say, I would like to rewind back to such and such a point. And then all of the fiction, not just some bit of it, but all of the fiction up to that point will be removed from the game. Again, no explanation, no justification required. No justification required. But I may ask a question or two just to make sure that as we play forward again, right, we don't redo that. The next script change tool is pause. That lets us say pause. We're just going to hold on for 1 second, and if we want to, it can either be a way to start a meta conversation outside of the fiction, or just take a break and say we're gonna stop here for a second. Either way, when we're ready to begin the game again, resume in the fiction, we say play, and we just keep going from the point where we paused it. And then the final script change tool we are using is fast forward. That lets us say, hey, I know what's about to happen. It happens. It's in the fiction. We're good with it, but we don't want to dwell on it. Beloved NPC is about to die. I don't need to hear their death monologue. Right? We're just going to fast forward through that and pick up afterwards in a new scene. And then the last major safety tool we are using is our lines and veils. Lines are things that do not appear in the fiction ever. Veils are things which can appear in the fiction, but we're not going to put on screen or focus the camera on. So the classic example of a veil is in film when a couple kisses, and then the screen fades to black and we open back up on them smoking cigarettes in bed. Everyone knows what happened, but it wasn't on camera. We have a list of lines and veils. It is a living list. If anyone wants to make adjustments, please do. If you have, just let me know so that I can check it and make sure that that everything is appropriately lined in veils. Anyone have any questions about safety tools? Wonderful. In that case, let's go left to right across the character keeper and introduce our players. So let's begin with our claimant, Lady Shaban. Josh, would you like to introduce us to Lady Shaban?
Yeah, of course. I play Lady Shaban Derek. Lady Shaban is she was at one point, I should say, the Lady of Ironburl last year, prior to her rise to power. And then she consolidated power to seize the crown of Dole from her alleged cousin, Owena Derrick. It has been very successful. We've just had a 1 year time skip in which we have solidified our grasp. We have we have started working very, very closely with wraiths, which is unheard of in the history of this land, as far as anyone knows. And we are finally marshaling our forces now at the end of the year, having grown as people to first to have a impartially mediated discussion with the Empress based on our flagrant violation of treaty rights and land property ownership and all of that. But secondly, to displace Owena Derrick and claim the throne rightfully for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yes. Alexi, would you like to introduce us to Sir Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. Sir Kevin is a skilled warrior, utterly committed to the claimant. That's the devoted, right? And so Sir Kevin's background is an acknowledged bastard of House Granwyn. At the beginning of the series, he was very focused on bringing peace to his fractious family, but that's been taken care of now. His uncles have been sorted, and so Sir Kevin, just before the time jump last session, declared his love to Lady Siobhan. Kind of shared his secret, very well kept secret of his passion for her. And she took him at his word that he wanted, more than anything, not to bring dishonor to her. So she sent him away to serve with the Empress, and he, spent a year clearing wraiths out of the Lost Isles, getting more scarred and more cynical, and just a little worse for wear at the end of all this. He's returned, now on the eve of the final push, and I have modified my beliefs and drives to reflect the new place where he is. He's let's see. Belief: the claimant is a ruler who can make hard decisions when necessary, but who will remind her that she has a heart as well? I am unwavering in my loyalty. Yes.
Just to clarify, that is a rhetorical question, and the answer is Sir Kevin Grist, right?
I think
just as a belief that drives action, I want to.
Yes, I think that's about right.
Okay.
I am unwavering in my loyalty despite the terrible suffering Lady Siobhan consigned me to. Drive: I will prove myself worthy of a place in Lady Siobhan's new Dole. So that's kind of where Sir Kevin is at after his year abroad.
Wonderful. We'll maybe come back to that year abroad in just a second. But Jason, would you like to introduce us to our Chancellor?
Yeah. Okay, the Chancellor is Vendon Blackcowl, and he is as mentioned, this year has passed, and he has become increasingly ragged and not caring for his physical appearance. He has been fading in and out, both physically and psychologically. When he is, coherent and physical, he's been devoting his energies to sending out his spies and conspiring in every possible way, and reading all kinds of spell books and magic books. And my proudest moment from last time is I was working on a way to banish the wraiths, and I got a crit. So he has this powerful spell ready to pull out. And his drive is changed in the last few sessions. Prior, he was excited about the Wraith Realm and all the beauty of it, but having spent quite a bit of time there now, he has come to believe that the Wraith Realm must be kept separate from our own. I think that's it.
Yeah. I just a quick question for you and Lady Shaban also, because we didn't really touch on this, but it's been a year, and at the end of our sort of our or before the year skip, the relationship between Lady Shaban and Venden was kind of fractured. There was like a certain amount of distrust there. I'm curious, like whether that has moved at all over the course of the year. Has Venden sort of like, I assume he's continued to make himself useful or he wouldn't be around anymore, but has it been more than that? Has he sort of revealed himself as being trustworthy? Um uh
I would say so. I think I've been incredibly competent, done a lot of the dirty work that needed to get done. And I think I don't think I've been, there hasn't, I, I don't think there's been any squeaks about me conspiring against her. So I guess that's up to Josh to decide how much Shaban trusts him at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think that if Venden has not betrayed her for the past year, I think that at this point Venden is off probation, but the mark is still on his record.
so here's a question to maybe push at that a little bit. I was going to ask a little bit later, but it makes sense. So the Wraiths have proven themselves very useful to you, right? I'm curious what you think your relationship is with Sarah Derrick is now. Like, obviously she commands some of this army of Wraiths, right? That has helped you sweep across Dole. And like, how have you continued your conversations? Have you tried to figure out whether or not she's your mother? Or are you sort of have you been keeping her at arm's distance? Like, what's the...
Yes, I think to the chagrin of some of her advisors, Siobhan has been communing with Sarah Derrick often, trying to figure out what her deal is. Also trying to sort of, smooth over the many misgivings that we have about each other.
And I'll give you a couple of things on that if you're telling me that you've been spending time with her,
Yeah.
right? Which is just that, like, she is clearly loyal. She is clearly sending her wraiths out to fight for you. She hasn't done anything to make you question her loyalty. But she has also brooked no disobedience in Clarion Glen. And I think you sort of see, she's ruled less with kindness than with might. And it's not entirely clear what your her goal. If she doesn't necessarily seem to have anything in mind beyond that you've noticed. She ruling is important to her, and I guess the question is sort of, I think the open question on yours and everyone's mind is like, do wraiths die? Is she going to be the eternal ruler? What will Clarion look like in 200 years if that's the case? And like, what's her goal there? Right? I think that's just sort of like the obvious thing that people are whispering about. But she's loyal, but she's loyal and successful, right? Those are, I don't know. So, and then we'll get to Arkina in just 1 second. So with all of that, Venden, like, have you been like acting openly against the wraiths?
No, I've been using them, in my ploys and my, and I think even my little montage scene, had them involved in a battle. So on the surface, I've been, friendly with them and, working together.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Arkina, or rather, Jex, why don't you tell us about Arkina, about our Vengeant?
Yeah, hi. I am playing Lieutenant Arkina Belcrown, though I think maybe General Arkina Belcrown now. Commanding the forces. Arkina now sports graying hair. She still has broad shoulders. She is heavily scarred, dark hair and eyes, well, graying hair now. She used to be very kind of unsmiling, now smiles inappropriately, and her nose has been broken many times. She carries the scars blood-stained, shattered, and reckless. She tends to fight very, very brutally. And she also has had her heart broken recently, which she did not think is something that was possible. She's also left with having no solace. Probably will not pick up a new one by the end of this game. Beliefs. So I was kind of going back and forth on what my belief about the claimant should be, and kind of got solidified during this opening bit. I think it's the claimant is letting herself get too close to the Wraith Queen. I will not let my defenses down in protecting her. So maybe we can get some fun Arkina and Venden stuff, possibly, if we have time.
Mm-hmm.
My other belief is I will claim vengeance by utterly destroying House Maze. My drive is I will drive myself into the ground and drown myself in the blood of my enemies. So, not intense at all.
Okay, yeah. So, let's. I have one question for Sir Kevin. Or let's frame the situation first here. So, it's been a year. At the end of our last session, we heard about Sir Kevin's voyage back from the Lost Isles. And I think on the same ship as Sir Kevin, and probably traveling across Dole with him, the Empress has sent an envoy, and this is maybe why Sir Kevin was sent back at this time as well, right? The war is tearing Dole apart. The Empress is pissed. She wants you to sit down. She wants the two sides to sit down and come to a settlement. She's not sending troops in yet, right? She's not. She may pick a side, right? Unclear, but depending upon how this goes. But she wants to mediate a conversation. I think a conversation that hasn't taken place since this war began. There may have been like little negotiations here or there between generals or whatever over particular battles and locations, but like a
prisoner exchanges.
Yeah, but I don't think Shaban and Awina have met yet since this war really began. So, Sir Kevin, I'm curious. Can you tell me about your commanding officer in the Lost Isles? Like the general, right? I mean, you're an important noble representative of a queen, right? So
Yeah.
you were sort of in the service directly of one of the generals who's in charge of that front.
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
Yeah, I'm picturing a hardened elder statesman of war, right? I don't know if we have a naming convention for the empire, so I'm just gonna go full Roman and say this guy's called Honorius.
Sure.
Tough but fair is his reputation among the troops.
Yeah, and I think it's that tough but fair reputation, right? He's negotiated his share of pieces over the years. He's a shrewd tactician, and he's trusted by all of the major imperial factions, right? And so he sent as the imperial envoy here. Sir Kevin, I'm going to give you a choice because this just popped into my head and I think it's interesting, but you should do what is fun for you. What do you think about being specifically appointed as his aide de camp? Like you're here, you are here not in. I mean, you obviously will always serve the queen, but your actual job at these peace talks is to be in service to General Honorius, or do you want to say no? He's just traveling with you, and you're really going back fully into the service of Lady Shaban?
I like the weird tension of Sir Kevin coming back, but not like, just straight up rejoin the retinue. So I'm up for his official job here being to aid the Imperial general who's come to broker the talk.
Amazing. Okay, so again, well, I think one of the questions he's going to have is, well, how much does he really trust you to be? He's supposed to be even-sided, right? How much does he really trust you? But you know the lay of the land, and you've earned his trust, certainly in your year of service in the Lost Isles. Wonderful. So I think I want to let's set the scene a little bit. This is happening. Let's pull up the map of Dole. And these meetings are happening. So you control most of southern Dole now. Right, you've taken the Maze Estates. You've taken the Bridge Fort. I imagine you hold the Maze Estates directly, right?
I'm thinking it might be a wasteland at this point.
Oh, that's right. No, you destroyed it. You didn't take it. You destroyed it utterly. I forgot. That's right. Is there a holding that you're holding directly? You probably should.
We hold Bridgefort, I think.
Bridgefort directly. Right. Okay, good. So let's say, will you feel safe if this is being held at the Imperial Academy?
Will we have like all of our troops, nearby and whatnot?
Not the whole army for sure.
Sure.
But you'll definitely, you can bring security, and the Empress guarantees your safety.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Are you Siobhan?
Yeah, if the Empress is if this is an Empress guaranteed meeting, I think that Siobhan is sure that Owena won't, assassinate her or anything.
Sure. So I think the this is obviously the expectation is that this won't happen. This is not all going to happen in one day. There'll be a few days of meetings, right? There's probably a few days setting it up. I'm sure Vendon went and scouted it out with his spies, right? And you can use flashbacks or whatever to fill some of that out. But I think you arrive on the first day of the real meetings, and I think you sit down at this long table, right? And Siobhan, we've said you haven't seen Owena during the war. Have you ever actually met Owena? Right? She came kind of out of nowhere.
I think that we might have gone to Wyvern University together.
Okay, and you knew she was your cousin, or was that sort of like, did that come as a surprise? Because I remember part of the sort of backstory here is, right, that she's like, surprise, Derek cousin.
Yeah, I think that much I was not aware of, but I was sort of vaguely aware of Owena, when I was studying at Wyvern University.
Sure. So she's around your age, I'd say, maybe a few years older.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're now in your mid-20s, we said.
Yeah.
Right. So she's probably late 20s, 28, right, 29, still young, and you can see you can see that the past year and a half of this war has aged her considerably. She looks exhausted, bags under her eyes. She's dressed regally at one side of this table. And it's the Warrior Sub. Each of you are going to be sort of a oval shaped table with a one straight or a semicircular table, right? And each of you is kind of along one round end, with the two of you at the narrow end, so you're kind of pretty close to each other, and then with your various folks sort of coming down the sides. I don't know why it's set up this way, but I think I like. And then Honorius and Sir Kevin are at the top, or are at the head. And then there's this straight end where there really isn't any anyone seated, and it's like that's where, as various different like documents and whatever are being like ferried over by aides, right? Possible treaty documents and charters showing who should own what land, and accounts of battles saying who wronged whom, etc. Right? Like the various different sort of clerks from the university like are running them back and forth and lining them up on that straight end so they can be passed down. And so on Owena, so there's Owena, right? So Sir Kevin, I imagine actually to Owena's right, deliberately not put directly next to Shaban.
Amazing.
With General Honorius and then Shaban. And I'm curious, Vendon and Arkina, how are you folks positioned? Are you sitting at this table here, or are you sort of elsewhere in the room conducting things?
Go ahead, Jax. You got an idea?
I like the idea that I'm staying very close to the table. Maybe I've even been offered a seat at the table, but I'm not sitting at the table. I have too much nervous energy, I think. I don't want to be rude, right? Like I'm not trying to be rude, but like I think I just can't quite fill that role.
And I think I'm probably. How do you feel about me being like in a secret passage, looking through like a a little peek hole or something?
I'm fine with it. Like, I think it's. Let me put it this way: this isn't your home territory. I'm perfectly fine. Like a zero stress flashback for you to have set that up, but it's also risky, right? Because
who knows who else could be crawling around
through
these walls.
those passages, right? You haven't had the chance to really search out the whole area. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Vendon, can I put forward an idea that the real Vendon is hiding in a passage, but there's a different fake Vendon sitting at the table?
Sure.
That went so well last time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You see a Scooby-Doo tapestry with one hole cut where the eye is, just looking back and forth.
Yeah. Does Shaban know about fake Vendon this time?
Yeah, I think she does.
Yes.
Sure.
Vendon would be killed immediately.
I'd be in big trouble. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I love it. So, and on Owena's side of the table, actually, further, is Sarah Derrick there?
Yes.
Directly beside you, sort of. There's not like a lot. It's not a huge table, right? There's not like rows. Like there's spot for 3 or 4 people, sort of with you if you want. So is she like right next to you? Is she a couple seats down?
Yeah, I think that her and a couple of the other like important vassals I have are seated at the table beside Shaban.
Yeah, I'm picturing with you, and tell me if you're cool with this. Probably one of Sir Kevin's uncles, probably Lord Brodry.
Yeah.
Right. And then hold on. And then also, what's his name? Treffer Islam, right?
Yeah.
Right, who sort of has taken all of Borrelwood, right? It was the Lord of all of Borrelwood. These are your major, right? You've got Sarah Derrick, who's the Lady of Clarion Glen, right? And Treffer Islam, who's the Lord of Borrelwood. So they're sort of your major vassals plus your retinue. And on the other side of the table, is obviously Owena and Lord Ellie's Lydigan. And I think
Wraith?
Yes, the Wraith. Lord Ellie's Lydigan, the Wraith.
Oh goodness. So there's wraiths on both sides of the table now.
Correct. This is what your devil's bargains get you. And I think obviously Lord Broderick Mays, but I think also Iron Mays. I think Lord Treffer's face sort of falls when he sees her. That over the year she's left him, they've fallen out, right? Because as we know, her lover is Lord Talfrin Cath. And she's realized that, I think we talked about her being sort of conflicted, and she's been convinced to go over to the other side, and so she's with Lord Talfrin Cath, but he's not at the table. It's Iron Maze, Broderick Maze, Eloise Leidigan, and I think those are her her
Inner circle.
Yeah, her inner circle, at least the ones who are here. And so Lord General Inarius stands up, and he's kind of pale, right? He's looking at these two wraiths, and I think he whispers in your ear before they start. Sir Kevin, what? I didn't realize I'd heard the rumors, but I didn't realize there are wraiths at the table. Will they speak?
If their lieges allow it, my general. I didn't know they'd be on both sides, though.
I'm not sure if this. Maybe we should just burn this whole kingdom to the ground. He mutters. I don't think not even to you. He just sort of is like muttering to himself quietly. You're the only one who can hear it, right? But then he stands up and he pronounces. He says, "We are here on this day because the Empress has decreed that this war must end. Aderic must rule the kingdom of Dole. Aderic is the proper heir. And the two of you must make peace. Such that one or both of you rules. The queen will not stand for chaos. The Empress will not stand for chaos in her realm anymore. So, with that, Owena, you rule from the capital. You may speak first." And she stands up, and she speaks very softly. I think she's reading from a piece of paper. This is like a prepared speech. And what she says is, what she says is, "I rule from the capital. My royal cousin, first cousin, passed, and I was crowned in her stead, and had the support of most of Dol, until my perfidious cousin, more distant cousin Shaban, took matters into her own hands and violently revolted. But I will be merciful. She has fought long and hard, and she is kin. So, she may keep her vassals, and all holdings she has taken, except for in Gilded Meadow. If she bends the knee to be now, today. But that is all I can offer." And she sits back down. So just taking a step back for a second to talk about how we want to play this. So I've sort of laid this out as like an initial scene, but I don't want to force us to play out like a negotiation scene if you don't want to do that. So we can zoom out a little bit if you want, and you can talk about sort of like, and the first day of negotiations went this way. Now let's do some intrigue and figure out what we want our next step to be. Or if you want to like dive into negotiations because that sounds fun, we can do that too. But I wanted to sort of like frame the what's this called? The peace conference right? With a sort of like, this is what she's willing to offer. This is how, this is sort of the framework for negotiation if you want it. But we don't have to put that on camera if that's not how we want to be spending our time. Cool.
I picture myself doing some sort of flashbacks, but but like a Pulp Fiction, like changing
Sure.
from past to present to future is fine with me.
Sure. We can definitely cut around. Depending upon what you want to set up, it might cost you some stress, but we'll play that by ear. I don't know. I mean, Siobhan, do you want to respond to that? Do you have some machinations you want to start? I don't know.
That's a good question. I'm going to ask the table, are we interested in pursuing a diplomatic end to this, or are we going to...
No, not a fucking chance.
Of course. That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to speak.
The whole point here is to take the crown.
Exactly.
So the other thing, you should do. You can turn this conference into a fight very easily. I mean, like, we don't even have to do the charade if you don't want, right? You can just throw it back in her face.
I'm not rude, but
but Arkina might be.
That's true. Arkina might be rude. Siobhan is not rude, but I just wanted to make that clear before we did it.
Sure.
What I'm very curious. I really want to know like how Siobhan responds, but I'm okay with if we like say, and then the conference was at Loggerheads, and we cut to the after that initial day of negotiations when we can confer amongst ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
if that works for other folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's start there. What's Siobhan say, maybe?
Yeah, Siobhan stands to deliver her, opening remarks, and she says, I have known Owena for a long time. In fact, I apologize. I've known Owena longer than I knew that she was a Derek. And she says it with a very rude smile. Siobhan says, Owena, you are not... This is not some personal vendetta I am pursuing. I hope you understand. The kingdom of Dole is Derek birthright. We have stewarded it for generations, for thousands of years. It is one of the oldest holdings in the world. And you, Owena, are not a Derek. You are low-born. You are a peasant who studied in the university and usurped my place. And I will not allow you to throw this kingdom to the dogs, chasing after the scraps that I put out for you. I see that you also have communed with the wraiths. I see that you did it after I did, because you are afraid of me, and you are afraid of what I am doing to this kingdom, of the future that I am bringing this kingdom to, Siobhan says. And then I think that... did we say it was Rodri, or did we say it was Reese?
We said Rodri, but if you would prefer it be
Yeah,
Reese,
I'm going to say it's Rodri. Rodri puts his hand on Siobhan, and he says, and he whispers something.
Mm-hmm.
And Siobhan looks at him, and she nods, and she says, I apologize for the outburst. This has been a tumultuous year. And she turns to the representative of the Emperor, and she says, I understand that chaos in Dole is unforgivable. It is not good for the Empress's lands to be uncertain. Rest assured, this chaos will not continue much longer.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Are you attempting to move the Emperor's envoy's opinion of you? Or his belief in Owena, in the righteousness of Owena's claim?
And yes, I think that would be...
Because I think
accurate.
a clock get General Honorius on your side is a very reasonable thing to have happen here.
Okay. Yes, I think that is a very that is a good mechanical translation of what I'm saying.
Sure, it's 6. It's gonna be 6 ticks. I don't. This is definitely an action roll.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious. Like, is it? Are you presenting? First of all, it sounds like sway. Is it sway? I just want to. You're doing something else here.
Yeah, I think this is sway. I'm not commanding anyone to do anything.
Yeah. So just to give the scene a little flavor and to give you something else to sort of work with, I think Owena very, very quietly just sort of gestures to a clerk who like runs over and puts some documents on the table, right? And she says, all of that is explained quite clearly. Here's here's the records of my birth, my family tree, and an explanation for why my lineage was kept a secret. And so like that's there, right? There's obviously she couldn't have done this without some kind of documentation, so it's present. But he's listening to you, and you can roll it. I'm also, just so you know, sort of like angling. At least some of you have like documents as a thing. You have records of noble houses as like as one of
my
your load items. So like if you want to bring that to bear, that could help.
I would be very happy for Siobhan to pull out her family tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I think this is a risky standard roll. I think your records of family tree make it risky great.
Okay.
And the stakes, just to be really clear about the stakes, are pissing off the Emperor's envoy with bullshit.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Like he's like, I don't really. Well, we'll see. We'll see how the roll goes, and we'll tell you how he is. Anyone want to help? Push
I
yourself.
have a question. Did we clear stress in the time skip?
So I actually wanted to talk about that. I meant to ask Michael about it because the time skip thing doesn't say you do. And I think there's it's been a stressful year.
True.
Right? Like I think it makes sense that you don't come fresh unless you've like indulged your solace.
You also take a trauma during it, though, right? So I mean, wouldn't that clear it?
That's true. That probably clears it. You're right. I think that makes sense to me. All right, so let's clear it. Yeah, your stress is cleared. Yeah, and do you want to push yourself here?
I'll definitely help you if you want that.
Siobhan, you've certainly got the special armor imposing in case you think that is worth expending to push yourself. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say I can assist probably with some forged documents to, prove that she's of low-born birth, like you're saying.
Sure. You can definitely do that. That is risky. Right? That gives me a nice lever to pull if you fail.
I'll take Siobhan can demean to the commoners out of her own her from her own skill. A year of training as a queen has hardened her a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So sorry, did you take the help? I didn't catch that.
Nah.
Are you pushing yourself? Would you like to hear Devil's Bargain?
Do you have one?
Yeah, I do.
I'll hear it.
Yeah, the Devil's Bargain here is that is that regardless of whether or not he's pulled to your side, right, whether he's convinced or not, you shut down this avenue as a means to pursue you can't use this kind of he'll have heard it, he'll have made up his mind about this question, and it's not the most important thing.
That's fair.
Right?
I think that
it will be a thing. It will matter a little bit, but it's you can't keep on drilling in at it, right? That's the Devil's Bargain.
Reasonable. I'll take that Devil's Bargain.
Sure.
So 5
dice.
Is it 5?
You've got 3 sway.
Yes.
1 from pushing yourself.
Yes. And yes,
and one
5.
from help. That's 5 dice. You already have great effects, so
Yeah, let's
do it. And that's a 6.
That is a 6, yes.
That is a 6. Yeah. So mechanically, that's 3 ticks on the clock. Great effect. You're halfway there. And he sort of looks at the papers that you've given him, and he looks at those papers and he says, "Well, this is all very interesting, and I'm sure that it will matter to the Empress. But it's not going to be the be all and end all. Whether or not Owina is truly a Derek matters, but between us here in this room, it is not the most important thing here. It is just a important thing. But like that's the fact that he's saying this, that he's saying to Owina's face that she might not be a Derek, right? That's a big deal, right? We cannot stress that enough. I can't stress that enough. And Owina frowns, and she sort of like, I think Lord Mays whispers something in her ear, and she and then she says, regardless of whether or not it is important, it is true. I am the rightful Queen of Dole. So again, I think I want to open this up again. Do you? It sounds like you're not so interested in pursuing the negotiation here. If you want to cut to some like recon stuff around like figuring out what the lay of the land is, and that can be zoomed in on this conference or zoomed out, right? Like about trying to find a place to like how to go after her or whatever, like militarily plan an assassination. I don't know. There's lots of things you could do. I wonder. Yeah. So I can suggest some framings for those conversations if you want to move out of this space.
I'm picturing like maybe a little flashback to me talking with Siobhan, over tea or something. It's saying, this General Honorius, Sir Kevin knows him, and word is that Sir Kevin, has an affection for you. Maybe you could use that to your advantage to convince Kevin to convince Honorius to see things our way.
Yeah, this is a good idea. Framing some flashbacks pre-meeting so you can schedule it.
What do you think, my queen?
Yeah, Siobhan absolutely will agree with that ploy. Also, she wants to see her trusted advisor, Sir Kevin, again. I think that she probably has not obsessed over their moment of last departure as much as Kevin might have.
Yeah. Do you want to have that scene like before the meeting, like the morning before the meeting or something, right? You snatch a moment to have a conversation outside of the view of the general.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, sure.
How are you approaching this, Siobhan? I'm because Sir Kevin has his job here, and he's probably been craning his neck to get a look at you, but hasn't stepped away from his duties for this until and unless you give him something more, right?
Yeah, I think that Siobhan approaches him. We are all probably in. Where did we say these negotiations were happening? At the university?
The university in Wybird City, yeah.
Yeah. So we are all, in the Imperial Academy in and around for a couple days prior to the.
And the ins and outs of this place.
And I do know the ins and outs of this place. I was a student here. So Siobhan, approaches Kevin, I think I do not think that she summons him anywhere, but I think that she does approach him just like during the day, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I will bow. My lady.
Sir Kevin, it is good to see you after such a long time. The year has been, I trust, has been as eventful for you as it has on the continent.
A year crammed with incident. How's your mother?
She is well. More well than when you left, I would say. Though it is a strange sort of wellness, as I'm sure that you well know, Sir Kevin.
Yeah, he kind of gives a rueful shrug to that. And how are you, my lady?
Yeah. She looks at him. She says, I feel that I am finally ready to put this squabbling behind me. To do something other than fight over chessboards.
Well, you look, if I may say so, every inch a queen.
Thank you, Kevin. Although, if I recall the advice you were giving me last year, your opinion on that has not changed much.
I think you've grown into your role, and I hear reports from every holding in Dole that the balance of power has shifted dramatically in my time abroad.
Siobhan nods and she takes a deep breath, and then she, a flicker of doubt crosses her face, and she finally says, "What do they say in the Lost Isles about speaking wraiths in Dole? About wraith lords in Dole?"
The troops in the Lost Isles reclaiming ancient cities from an infestation of wraiths. They are, well, half of them think it's a sick joke. Half of them think it's blasphemy against everything sacred and wholesome in the world.
No. And Siobhan shrugs. She says, "Well, about the same as anywhere else, then." The decision... I hope that you understand, Sir Kevin, that every choice that I made on this path was... I still believe it to be absolutely necessary. I hope that you can understand that.
No one's ever said you get to the throne without making hard decisions along the way.
And Siobhan nods and she says, "I'm sorry, Kevin. I forget that I am no longer the one that you work for. I shouldn't keep you from your duties."
Oh, my lady, I've been remiss in not paying my respects earlier. Yes, I should go to General Honorius. You won't, even if you should take the crown you've sought, you won't forget who you were before it rested on your head, will you?
How could I?
my lady. Another bow.
Siobhan does not bow because she is much higher status, but she nods to Sir Kevin, and she continues down the, she leaves off to do her own important things.
I mean, you could offer your hand for him to kiss. I think that's like,
That's
totally,
yes, that is a what she does.
yeah, and it's it's like only the fraction of a second too long that he presses his lips to the back of your hand, and then he goes to attend to the general.
Yeah. Quick fast forward back to the table, and Arkina. I think you're not even sure how, right? Because you've been kind of like nervously standing there, keeping your hand on your sword, like looking around, right? Probably angrily staring at the mazes. But at some point, you look down and notice that there's a small slip of paper in your hand, right? And it says, if you'd like, meet me on the ballroom balcony at such and such a time this evening. Iron Maze. And so she's sort of like offering a back channel if you want to, if you want to follow that up at some point. You don't have to, but it's there for you. I also don't know if Siobhan, Arkina, and Vendon want to like frame a pre-conference scene where they're sort of making a plan. Not like a plan, but like a, what are our goals here? You can do that. But if you don't, that's also fine. I feel like if we want to cut to fighting, we should cut to fighting also.
Well, I had a couple of thoughts about a couple of sort of information gathery things that I'd like to do.
Sure.
But I think here I want to make eye contact with Iron Maze and just kind of hold eye contact for a moment.
I mean, she won't hold eye contact, right? She like meets your eyes for a second, but then looks away, right? I think, and you can see it's a more controlled version of that look of fear you saw that time you cornered her, right? She hasn't forgotten who you are or what you do.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good sort of place for my little flashback of. I think this is a flashback, probably not something that happens after this.
Sure.
I want to try to find or kind of root out the surviving maze, the surviving members of House Maze. I want to just know where they are and what they're up to, I guess.
I mean, so like big picture, I'll just give that to you, right? Like I think the major players, because they're major players,
right?
They're not in hiding, right? So that's Lord Broderick, who's here, right? Who has retreated to Wyvern City, sort of ruling Gilded Meadows in exile, right? Still claims to be the rightful lord, right? Along with what's his name, Kath, and now apparently his cousin Iron. But then in terms of the other folks, the other mazes, I think that's not here. I think that right. Sorry, she's not his cousin. She's his sister. Right. Francis Mays, who's your father? Did we determine that, or just the right? So Francis,
he's the monk.
Yeah, he's the monk.
Yeah, he's my father.
He's your father. So you left the monastery alone, the Fen Violet Monastery, and so he's still there, so far as you know, right? He hasn't gone anywhere. If you want to frame a scene around that, right? Telfrin Kath is also right here in exile with Iron, as is his wife, and his son is probably in the army, is serving in the army. Those are sort of like the major players in Gilded Meadow.
Yeah, I mean, I think I literally, like, when I say I want to destroy House Maze utterly, I mean it, right? Like, I guess I sort of, I know where the major players are. I also sort of want to know where, I don't know. I'm trying really
Like,
hard
you
to. I
want to know
don't.
where their kids are living? Like,
Right?
like,
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
now that I'm saying this, I'm kind of thinking it through. Like, I don't want this to be a an Anakin in the Jedi Temple situation. Like, that's not okay. I'm not. That's not fun.
right.
I guess I want maybe making you help me kind of figure it out. What I am looking for here is like something that feels additional, something that feels too much without
So
being
I think
that.
so I mean I think there's a couple of things, right? So I think number one, it might be Francis Mays.
Hmm.
If you want to, like, yes, he's your father, and we haven't really talked a lot about what that relationship was. I'm sure that's but like he's not in the game, right?
Hmm.
He's sitting in this monastery, minding his own business, right?
Hmm.
Not involved at all, right? And killing him and burning down his monastery. I mean, presuming also that Iron and Broderick are like die in this war as well, right? Like,
Hmm.
are is I think is maybe the thing. I'm not gonna say he's
Yeah.
innocent, he's an
Right.
adult who's probably done some shit, but like,
I.
he's not involved in this.
Mhm. Yeah, I think no, I like that. I think that that's something that gets across that same sort of feel without being something that's like disgusting and too
Yeah.
far. I
Also,
mean,
like,
it is too far and disgusting, but not
we're not murdering children, which
right.
is
Exactly.
definitely not allowed in this game.
Yes. Yes.
I believe.
Well, even if it
I think
were, I
it's
think
veiled.
I would do
Right.
that
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah. So thanks for helping me talk through that because yeah, the more I thought about it, that's the direction that things seemed headed, and I don't want that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I would be interested in seeing Sir Francis.
So one thing I also want to just add, and then maybe we'll take our first break, is just that a lot of players have sort of individual goals, and that's good. And I want to make sure that you get to do them. But just with time being tight, you'll get epilogues also, and so we may not be able to get all of those big goals like on screen in the sortie, which we should cut to pretty soon, I think. I apologize for sort of expanding this out. But I'll try to get as much of it on camera in there as we'll try to get as much of it on camera in the sortie as we can. But I don't want to promise that we'll get all of it, and so some of that stuff may have to go in epilogues instead. And I hope everyone's okay with that. But I will, but yeah. But if you want to flashback to like, I don't know, do you want it to be like? See, the flashback can happen anytime during the year, right? Do you want to ride into the monastery and have a conversation with Sir Francis?
I mean, obviously, we're playing to find out and don't know exactly where it goes, but I actually find it in the epilogue being appealing of kind of that's putting the the punctuation mark.
Sure. Okay, so let's take our first break. It's now 10 after. Let's come back at 20 after.
Okay.
Mhm.
what you were saying, Jesse. I agree. Like, let's get Shaban crowned, and then at the end, I'll have probably my little scene where I'll cast my spell to resolve my big drive.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially though, since like we'll see how this goes, but so much of Shaban's rule is propped up on the back of wraiths, right? Like, what does it mean if you then banish them? Like, can she hold? I mean, I think the answer will be like, because there's that coordination roll, right? So we'll find out how much that matters depending on how that roll goes.
The story seems to be becoming increasingly bittersweet anyway, so if it doesn't go well, I think it would be a fitting end.
They always are.
Yeah.
All right, everybody's here. Here's what I think we should do. It's been a day of tight negotiations. You've pulled the Imperial envoy a little bit more onto your side, but no like real progress in negotiation has been made, right? You refuse to concede to her demands. Your demand is just that she give up. So, right, there's no give there, right? And so evening falls, and I think it's time for the retinue to sit down and decide what they want to do. Sarah, Derek, if you're okay with this, is in the meeting. Sir Kevin, is Sir Kevin invited? I mean, my instinct is to say yes, because you want all the players there, but if you have some reason not to.
You tell me if I'm invited.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Shaban, do you invite Sir Kevin to this meeting?
Yes.
I think I have to have some like ostensible task from Honorius for this, but I'm happy for that to be the case, right?
Sure. So here's this. So the question is, like, how do you want to play this? I see there's been some conversation in the chat, right, of uprising, assault, right, and then taking it out of the specific like task, which is like fictionally, right? Do you ride out tonight and come back with an army, right? Do you try to get your soldiers that are here, take it from the inside and like have your call in your armies? Do you try to start an uprising? Do you try to assassinate the Owina, right? Like do you try to convince the Imperial envoy to be or some of Owina's along with some of Owina's folks to like just come over to your side? Lots of options here.
Would the potential outcome of my conversation with Iron play into that decision?
It's up to you. I didn't necessarily have anything like she was. I mostly that was about getting you some FaceTime with some mazes. For your right. So and it could have progressed other stuff too, but that was mostly sort of like, hey, you could talk to some mazes and that could feed into what happens.
So I think maybe I get it started. Maybe Vendon comes in and he's followed by Greyjack, who's a giant bald man with these gray tattoos all over his body, and one of his fellow Carrion Company giants. They're carrying a chest, and they plop it on the table, and it shakes, and he throws it open, and it's full of gold. And I say, Sir Kevin, General Honorius is the kind of man that can be bought?
Absolutely not.
And then I throw down some papers and I say, these documents are from trusted sources that will prove him to be a decadent, traitor to the realm, a man who betrays the gods. Is he one that we can blackmail?
Vendon, your methods are far too crude for the Imperial Court. Everyone who knows the Empress has been accused of all of these things already, and they're still around because the Empress didn't believe their accusers.
In my experience, every man has a way to get to them. What is it going to be? We must have him for the queen.
I think we should try talking to him and convincing him that Queen Siobhan will be better for Dole and for the Empire than Queen Arwina.
And then he will turn the other way, and then we will strike. And finally, the crown will be yours, my queen.
No, then why? How would it help us to attack the Imperial emissary?
No. He'll turn the other way and let us take care of this pretender.
Ah, I see. It is Arwina's fate that you contemplate here.
As it has been for the last year and more.
I look to
So-
Siobhan.
Siobhan says, Sir Kevin, you've served with the man for a year in honorable combat. Could you not just speak to him?
I can make your case. I will have to be circumspect, but I can see about convincing him that there is a right choice for the crown of Dole.
Yeah. Later, Lady Derek speaks up, and she says, "Daughter, if you could defeat Arwina decisively with the Empress's back turned, Honorius wouldn't be here now. Her back has been turned for a year and a half, and we've been fighting across Dole all this time. It's not. It's you need him to do more than turn his back while you fight Arwina. You need him to come in and bring with him the Empress's troops to crush her."
Your Majesty, forgive me, but I agree with the ghost.
I also like the sound of that.
Siobhan is I think surprised to hear her advisors agree with Sarah Derek.
And just stepping outside that in terms of like what that means in play, right? That turns the sortie into convincing him to come in on your side, right? Like that's what that becomes. So just that's one avenue you could pursue. I wanted to get it out there, but go for it. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think she said, or you could simply strike. We are here. We have our wraiths in the university, not far from the palace. Just strike and be done with her. She's not of our blood. What does it matter? The others will fall in line.
And my spies are here in the alleys and the gutters and the sewers all throughout the city. They're just waiting for the word.
Yeah, Siobhan nods. She says, "Well, I don't want to push in character towards towards a certain sortie approach without confirming out of character first. That's my tendency. So I think my read of how we're looking at this is that we probably don't, or well, we'd be trying to convince Honorius to, charge with the Imperial cavalry. If we just have a 3-person agreement on that one. I don't know what approach do we want to do for this sortie for Siobhan to say, let's do this.
And I also want to throw in that you can do that and still have a duel with a wraith, right? And have a and kill some mazes, right? Like
Yeah.
all of that stuff can happen in front of Honorius to convince him, to take your side, right? Like I want to make that clear. Like it doesn't have to all be talking.
Yeah.
I think that well, Arkina's impulse is always, to smash things. I think even she sees that, if we were to just assassinate Owina, that our hold actually wouldn't be that strong, right? Like I think that that's not going to look good when it gets back to the Empress. I think I have I don't know. Arkina has at least enough sort of understanding of politics to know that much. So I don't know. I guess me the player, I like trying to convince Honorius to bring down the might of the Empress on Owina, or I really like the uprising idea.
Yeah, that might work. We convince, we incite an uprising, make her look bad, and it sounds like from the document too, it sounds like she's been ignoring the people and the land for quite a while, so they might be ready to blow up. So we do that. We make her look really bad, and then the Emperor says we need somebody who actually can rule this land and take care of the people and the land. So
kind of
then
the
we make
two-pronged
our move.
approach is incite the uprising and do diplomacy on Honorius so that he interprets this as we need to bring the Imperial forces in and install Siobhan.
Right.
The goal can be to convince Honorius, right? Can be whatever it is, gain status. We're not going to worry too much about like the numbers there, but like the goal can be convince Honorius, and the sortie approach can be uprising, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
And then if we have to fight and kill some of the usurpers inner circle along the way, so be it.
What I'll say is, I think it's important. I think I have a hard time picturing what the uprising looks like here, and it will be helpful for me if you could figure out like what's that point of entry, what's the sympathetic crowd.
So maybe there's like a flashback scene showing the land, that we've been traveling through, where people are starving because she has been ignoring, the important job of like, the administrative jobs of taking care of the land because she's so worried about Siobhan.
Well, so you've both been fighting a war, right? The land is going to shit. That's like very clear. I think your job is convincing everyone it's her fault.
I will suggest Siobhan's background is in academia. Mm-hmm. We are currently stationed at a peace conference in Wyvern University. So we could very much start a student uprising that would hopefully then spread outwards to the greater city.
Sure. And I think I'm willing to say you're generally well liked by the students. You were there for a long time. The faculty, right? Your art is probably hanging in some prominent places.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think that's definitely like a way to start if you want to start a riot here at the university. That's the thing that happens all the time.
Yes.
To foreshadow where I'm going, though, all that art is strangely has disappeared, though.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense. So we're saying uprising approach, goal, become queen.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So tell me, I have a sense of like what the first scene of this is, but I want to know like going into the engagement role. What's like, how is the uprising being pushed by you? How are you? This could be like see Jule beforehand, but like what are you doing this night and the next morning, so that the riot breaks out when you want it to, so that the uprising starts.
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Can you
Oh,
repeat
yeah.
that?
Sorry. I mean, this is basically like so good. So the sympathetic crowd is students. So, and this doesn't have to be you, Siobhan. This could be everyone, or right. But like, what are you doing to what's the spark that lights the tinder? Is I guess my question. You've got these sympathetic students. I'm imagining, and I Vendon's spies have been laying the groundwork and talking to people, right? Arkina's walk, like you've been laying the groundwork for this probably for a while, right? Since you first got the message from the empress that this was going to happen, right? So what's the thing you do so that they'll start they'll start rebelling at the right moment?
I think that Siobhan arranges for Awena's garrison. Siobhan is going to arrange for Awena's garrison to be quartering in the dormitories. They've occupied a lot of the university buildings in the interests of defense as they invite this foreign power into the capital city. And Siobhan, and that is the we will instigate their
Sure. And
third
the idea,
rights.
and so when you say we will instigate there, we're like, are you going to give a speech, or is this like, or is this more like you've got something set up so that when negotiations start the next day, like a messenger will show up and be like, they're rioting at the gates. The students have begun. The students are calling for the head of Queen of Awena.
Yeah, I think that this is Siobhan is not going to give a speech. I think that hypothetically, the way that this happens is that the students have confrontations with the occupying soldiers that Awena has.
Got it.
Yep. Siobhan has set up the garrisons in such a way that the soldiers and the students are going to be interacting a lot.
Got it. Perfect. Okay, I love it. So let's do this engagement roll. One for Sherlock. Is this a particularly bold or daring approach? I would say yes. Do you have help for friends or contacts? I don't think so. Not really. Are you hitting the target where they're weakest? I'll say yes. This is like a good opportunity for that. Are you following up on preparations or leverage? No. Is the target a lower tier? No. Major disadvantages. Specific consequences from recon actions? No. Overly complex plan? No. Interference from enemies or rivals? I don't think so. I think they're really not expecting this. This is like the one thing that just didn't occur to them, which is weird. But like as I'm thinking about who they are, I just don't think. And they're not prepared or defended against this approach. They're not and they're not a higher tier. They're the same tier as you. So that's 3 dice. Who would
go for it, Siobhan?
Siobhan, roll it. That's a 4. So yeah, on a 4, you're in a risky position when the action starts. So I think here's the moment. You've been hearing, like, I think it's morning, right? And you've started negotiations, and they're talking back and forth, and like papers are coming in, and there's like some argument going on about the restitution that you should give for destroying Maze Manor, right? And back, blah, 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 and like droning on and on. And meanwhile, you've been hearing occasional like sort of shouts from out the window, right? And clashes and bangs. I think, hold on, I know you didn't, when you hear there's a big knock on the door, and a guard walks in, with of all people, Clariad. No, not Clariad. No, yes, Clariad. We'll say it's Clariad. I think he makes the most sense.
The hunter?
Clariad the Hunter, yes. Who I think is one of the people you have sort of like working underground, like working alongside the students, right? To sort of charge them up. That seems reasonable. Unless you prefer to be Drifter, Venden.
No, I think Cariad sounds a little better.
Yeah, Cariad. So Cariad is in at knife point or bound, and the guard says, "This ruffian who's no student has been riling up the students against the guard, and it's starting to turn. Things are getting ugly out there, Your Majesty," he says, facing Queen Owena. Honorius turns to her and says, "This is your city, is it not? Shouldn't you be in control?" And I think Iron. No, not Iron. I'm sorry. Lord Ellie's the Wraith looks at him and says, "Yes, this is no a student, right? This is a hunter from Borrelwood. He used to plague me. He's I don't know who he's working for, but he's up to something." And he gives, and with the strong implication that it's you. I think Broderick Mason says it. "This is an agent of the Lady Shaban. She's trying desperately to undermine these meetings. She refuses to agree to peace." And so Honorius turns to you, Shaban, and says, turns to you, Sir Kevin, and says, "Do you recognize this man? Is it true? Does he serve Queen Shaban, Lady Shaban?"
I'm thinking about how Kevin would respond. Yeah, I think he'll say, "This is a rogue, but he speaks for the people of this realm who are not content with the rule of bunglers and usurpers. He was at our side when we brought down the Lightigans. Perhaps the people here as well feel their supposed rulers are not listening to them and have become mere parasites on the land."
He just looks at you and he's like, "Speak clearly, Kevin. I'm not used to you talking in these kinds of riddles."
Siobhan stands up from the desk. Siobhan says, "If a single agent from the Ironborough Derricks can cause riots in the streets of Wyvern City, then clearly something is flawed with your rule." And then Siobhan looks at Cariad and she says, "This man is Cariad. He is a hunter from Borrelwood. You do know him, Ellis. You know him because he was there when you died." And Siobhan looks at him and she says, "Cariad fought in Borrelwood against you, against your cruel taxes, against your repressive ways, and he has stuck with me for this hard year because he knows that I fight against these repressive ways. And the reason why the students riot in the streets is because they know that he fights with me against your repressive ways." And then Siobhan sits down, satisfied.
Yeah, that sounds like a sway roll to me. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
So I set this up as sort of 2 clocks on your side and 1 clock on the GM side, right? So number one is get Onarius on your side, right? Which is the one that you've already started, and which is basically just like he's inclined towards you. He will, push harder for you in negotiations or whatever. And then the second clock is get him to actually fight for you, right? To sort of, so you need to get him on your side first, and then you can get him to fight for you. But there are also, I can imagine fictional ways in which you could sidestep that first clock if you need to. You know what I mean? But let's start with, rolling that sway. So, I don't have a devil's bargain for you that I can think of. Do you want to push yourself? Do you want anyone want to help?
I'd love to help. Can we say that Kevin says something to underline this? Like you see what I meant, General, about there being only one queen who can command a country in this room.
Beautiful. Yeah. So take that stress.
Nice.
This is risky standard.
All right. 6.
That's a 6. Yeah. So take 2. We'll give you 2 on that. Get on Arius. And he says, well, that's all good and well. It's all good. That's all good and well. They do have a point, Owena. And Owena says, yes, of course. And she turns to Lord Cath and says, send out the troops to put down this little rebellion. We'll show them who's truly the queen.
Siobhan stands up again, and she points to Arkina. She says, "If they deploy force against the students, I want you to match them."
Your Majesty.
And Siobhan,
Honoris turns to you. You would contribute more to the unrest? We are here for peace. We are here to end this madness, not for slaughter in the imperial streets.
Siobhan looks at Honorius and she says, when people riot in the imperial streets, we ought to listen to them.
Yeah, I think at that moment, that's the moment when you hear a boom from outside, and one of the clerks calls from near the window. It seems that they've taken to leveling the barracks. The students are. This is bad, Your Majesty. This is quite bad. And the thing that's happening here, right, is that on the one hand it's swinging in favor of the students. That doesn't necessarily, I mean, that could work in your favor, right? And I think Lord Cath just runs out, calling, saying, messengers, gather, call the infantry from the palace barracks. We are going to stop this now. And yeah, Arkina, I mean, what's your play here? He's still there.
I walk out. I kind of want to say like a snide remark, but I also feel like it's not my place to,
It's up to you.
But something. Well, I feel like. I mean, I guess I have a history of saying things out of turn. Something in the effect of, if you don't want there to be slaughter in the streets, then you will stop them from I don't know, from doing what they're about to do.
Yeah,
I
sure.
lost my steam a little bit there, and I just walk out.
Sure. I mean, I guess my question is: are you trying to intercept Lord Cath before he can like get to command the infantry, or are you gonna try and pull like or are you just gonna like go out there and engage in full on battle like in the courtyard of the academy?
Yeah. So my thinking is I will go, and command our troops that are here, with us. And not to get into outright combat if we can help it, but to protect the students, protect the people.
All right. So here's what I'm just gonna say: if you bring your infantry into this, you're going to. It's automatically going to be one tick on the piss off Honorius clock. You should know that, right? Like
how big is that clock?
It's an 8 clock. So you've got some space.
We got some runway here.
Yep.
I mean, I'm following my queen's orders.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that you fictionally have the opportunity, right, to like prevent him from getting out there first, right? That's all. I want like you can interpose your body if you want to.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know where I see that.
Yeah, you don't have
going,
to. You absolutely can do this thing. I think it's fucking awesome. I also want to make that clear. I just want to let you know that part of what makes it awesome is that it's got this extra sort of like edge to it that will create more chaos.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I probably like put my body in his way insofar as I shove past him.
Yeah, sure.
But
I mean, look, is this you're gonna like ride to try and get your soldiers in there before he can to block his?
I think I think that I like that.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it doesn't have to be ride; it can be something else too. But like, is that the idea? You want to like get set up before him? Is this a speed thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think I push back and I kind of rush outside. And would it make sense that there are some of our troops around anyway, like for security or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the other piece of this is like you can engage a small gang on equal footing in close combat. Like if he's bringing in a troop, like it's gonna take some time to get the real like the real heavies in, but so maybe he just has a troop of like 6 or 7 folks that he's bringing in while he waits for the bigger guns.
Yeah. So I give orders to someone that's nearby, who's kind of here in a security capacity to go ready the troops, and I am going to put my body between the protesters and these fucks.
So you get down to the courtyards, right? And it's pretty chaotic, right? There's like a sort of I don't know, small garrison of like royal guards that are kind of based there, partly because it's a university and it's a hotbed of sedition, right? And partly just because it's like one of the what do you call it? Like one of the regions of one of the districts of the city. And so they have this sort of like small protective garrison. They're at war, right? They need to be protected externally also. Right. So yeah, so I think this like the students are starting to like try to burn down the guard garrison, right? The soldiers garrison. And there's like 6 or 7, I'd say like probably there's like 6 or 7 people in Cath livery, 5 or 6 people in Cath livery who are brought directly to the command of Lord Cath, who are drawing their swords and coming for the students. But you like haul ass out there, and are able to like throw yourself in front of them. Tell me what this looks like. Like, what's your move?
Yeah, I think as soon as they, they draw their swords, I draw mine and I'm running towards them. And I think as soon as one looks in my direction, I am going to slash him and wait to see what the other two, or other, not two, there's several of them, wait to see what they do. And I will push myself to be able to engage a gang on equal footing. And
So
I will get into close combat.
Yeah, take 2 stress. Is that a are you taking it? I mean, it sounds to me like you're skirmishing. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, are you taking that? Push yourself for a die or for effect? I think it's because you're pushing yourself to be on equal footing. It's still risky, right?
Mhm.
Risky standard at the moment.
I'll go for the die.
All right, so that's a third die. Is anyone here helping? I'm not. I also want to we should think about what the goal is here, right? In terms of like the stakes, right? Because yes, I mean some of it is killing these dudes, obviously, but like in terms of your bigger picture goal, right? Is this about humiliating? Again, like humiliating Owina, or is there something else here?
So for me, I think the goal is, just to prevent them from being able to, rain down violence on these students. And with that, and with that, right, as I'm drawing, engaging a gang in equal footing, draw attention to the fact that Owina is trying to do that, right? Is trying to rain violence down, and that Queen Siobhan is the one who's protecting them.
Got it.
So maybe I'm assisting because maybe I've trained my spies to yell out, Arwena's, fascist or trying to oppress us,
Probably not using words like that, right? But
sure.
but the point is made, right? Like the usurper is unjustly whatever, right? Good. Yeah, sure.
I'll take a stress.
Take a stress for that, and yeah, go ahead. So you're going to take that for effect or a fourth die?
I think effect.
Yeah, sure.
I also have to say, Sir Kevin, I was typing that in the chat as you were finishing that up.
Yes.
All right.
Go ahead and roll it.
4.
Yeah. So with great effect, you succeed. So that does. We're going to sort of split this up a little bit, I think, just because of how you fill out that clock, which only needed one more tick, right? But the other thing that happens, sort of, this is what makes it great effect, is that, tell me how you utterly defeat these 5 people and have and what you do with Lord Cath when he gets there. You can kill him too if you want, but I'm going to also, leave you the sort of opportunity if you want to do something else there.
Yeah, no, I think,
and he's a maze retainer.
Yeah, I think that I make fairly quick work of them. Just because the audience wants to see it, there's some back and forth, but it's pretty quick, it's pretty brutal, and I turn to what's his name again?
Cath.
I say, tell your men to stand down. I think I'm going to go all out and command him to. I feel like this is probably going to be a limited effect if I do this. Command him to bend the knee to Lady Siobhan, or it's going to get worse. That's not even. That's effect 0.
That's effect 0. You can try and push it, but I think if you're, but tell your men to stand down. He is scared shitless. Like that's the thing that might happen. Yeah.
So tell your man to just stand down and to leave these students alone.
Meanwhile, the barracks are on fire. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Which could set the university on fire too.
I think we need to deal with that part also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're actually going to make a clock call, the university fire. But you should roll that command. Is what I'll say.
And I get a bonus die from
You get a bonus
my
die,
brutal.
and it's great effect from like that's part of the like your previous action can be a setup for this.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that it felt like a setup for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And
So yeah, and also controlled. Like so far as the risks of this command go, they're very low, right? Controlled, great.
Just for shits and giggles, can I hear Devil's Bargain?
Sure. You also haven't heard the consequence of that 4 roll yet.
Oh yeah, that's probably pretty important.
Yeah, and I think the consequence is just that there's 2 ticks on that university fire clock.
I'm not. How big is that clock?
It's 4 o'clock.
Ooh, I should probably resist that then. Yeah.
Someone else can also resist it if you want.
Yeah, if someone else feels able to do that or willing to do that, that would be cool.
Yeah. The consequences. The fire is spreading, and
Well, yeah. I
endangering
mean,
the
I think
university.
that the barracks are completely ablaze, and they're gonna spread. Right. That's the university. Like basically, it's the clock is the whole place starts being set ablaze. Right.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, if this sounds good, I'd resist it by like turning between my this meeting, right? and saying, General,
you froze there for a second.
lady. Oh shoot! Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, start over.
Okay, so I was proposing resisting the fire with Kevin kind of turning between Honorius and Siobhan and saying, General, my lady, if you'll pardon me, someone has to keep this place from burning down. And then like he charges out of the meeting room and just like, rallies random non-rioting students to like form a bucket brigade.
Sure, that sounds like a resolve resist to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. 3 dice.
And am I protecting a teammate as I do this?
I don't think so.
Given that Arcana, might get burned.
She's not in direct danger
All
here.
right, fair enough. So I just roll. I roll with the number of pips I have in the first column of resolve.
In resolve, yeah. So it's 3 dice.
Yeah. All right. What am I looking for? Lowest or highest?
It is highest, and you subtract it from 6.
Okay, so highest is a 4, so that means 2 stress.
2 stress, yeah.
2 stress to resist that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so Arcana, he looks at you and he's kind of trembling, and roll your command there. Oh, you want to hear Devil's Bargain? Yeah, I mean, Devil's Bargain is a tick on the piss off Honorius clock that he's like watching, like the place is burning down, right? The students are still rioting. You're not stopping the students from rioting. Instead, you're fighting the person who wants to stop the students from rioting. And like he was impressed with what you did, and he sees you wanting to protect the subjects of Dahl, but also like there's unrest here, right? He's an imperial general. He's not, he does not please with that. So that's the Devil's Bargain.
1 tick?
1 tick.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I assume you're taking another die with that.
Yes.
Given that you already are in control, great situation here.
Only a 5.
Only a 5. Yeah. So he calls off his men. And I think it's as simple as another tick on that piss off Honorius clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the controlled consequence. Or if you want, you can back down and let him like call for his infantry and take another approach.
I think what I would like to do is I'd like to resist that by kind of chaining my command and turning to the students and saying like, okay, you have our ears, now stop this.
Sure.
And kind of just trying to,
yeah, go ahead. And that also sounds like a resolve resist.
Which for me is 3.
3, yep.
5. So
5. So you take one stress. Yeah. So I think we're cutting back to the negotiation chambers here, and I think Honorius is looking around, kind of bewildered, and he says, oh, "Lady Shaban, Lady Arwina, this is how your kingdom is run. At least your people are competent, Lady Shaban." Right, that's the sort of result of you've filled out that clock. Right, he's pleasantly disposed towards you, but not enough to like basically crown you king on behalf of the Empress, Queen. But still, there's a fire in the university. There's students rioting. The Empress will not be pleased with this report. I think at that moment, the Elias Leidigan, the Wraith, steps up and says, "Well, I know a little bit about chilling hot tempers. Perhaps I should go speak to them." He starts. He says, "Your Majesty, would that be suitable?" And she says, "Yes, Lord Latigan. In fact, it's exactly what I was thinking. You always anticipate." And General Honorius is like a little sort of aghast at this, but he's willing to sort of watch and let it happen. And I'm curious. I mean, Vendon, there's a wraith about to act on students here. What would you like to do?
I think that can only help us. So I'm going to let that happen. I think maybe there's a little bit of a flashback again. So like after our retinue had our talk, we see Vendon leaving the chamber with Greyjack and his minion carrying that chest of gold, and they're going to carry it to General Honorius's lieutenant, let's say Colonel Claudius. And
so Sir Kevin is his lieutenant, right? This is someone who's going to have to be lower down than that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, whatever. Whoever's next on the totem pole.
Sure. Colonel Claudius is fine. I just.
Yeah, and we're going to try to bribe him instead, and maybe he'll whisper some words into General Honorius's ear.
Sure. I mean, so that is going to cost you one stress, just to have that flashback at all.
Sure.
Right, and that's, think of that as sort of like the cost of the gold or whatever, right? I'm not gonna. And yeah, what are you rolling with that?
I'm thinking sway.
Sure. So
it's 3 dice. I have a item on my list called Fine Gift.
Yeah, sure.
I
mean, I think that will definitely. I'm trying to think about how this works. I mean, this is kind of desperate, right? I want to point that out. Like if he finds out, he's going to be mad.
Sure.
Right. But I think it's also great, right? Like he trusts Corporal Claudius. We'll say. Yeah. So desperate, great. You have 3 dice in sway. Would you like to push yourself? We're here at Devil's Bargain.
I will just push myself. So
Sure.
I'll just take 2 more stress.
Sure.
So I'm up to 4 dice.
Yeah.
I think I'll just go with that. So I'm desperate and great effect. 4 dice. Let's do it.
Sure.
What do I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 5.
5. Yeah. So it's desperate though. So you're going to take a desperate consequence. but also great. So he. So you give him the gold. He says, "Sure. I'll talk to Corporal to the general for you. Sure. I mean, this is the price of access." And he and cut back to the scene where Elias Leidigan is about to walk out and deal with them, and Nurius says, "A wraith? To do what to those? I've spent the past years of my life fighting the wraiths in the Lost Isles, and now you're going to send a wraith to fight against students in the capital of Dole?" Claudius was right. At least Lady Shaban knows how to keep her wraith in check. And yeah, so you're gonna take that's 3 ticks on the Gedonarius to fight for you clock. But there's also a desperate consequence. And I think that is, hold on, let's take a look at these action roll reference. I think it's a couple of things. I think number one, there's number one is that Lord Islam, Lord Leidigan rather, turns to the general and says, "My Lord General, perhaps I'm not kept in as tight check as Lady Derek's mother," and he emphasizes that word mother. But she's been fielding an army of wraiths against ours for the better part of a year now. And, well, I'm just me. Right, and I think that's going to be 2 ticks on the piss off General Nurius clock. He's reminded that there's wraiths on both sides here. And then the second, it's only 2 ticks because it's not the full consequence. And the second one is he then turns to you, Vendem, and points and says, "Why, her chancellor is practically a wraith himself as well." And you start to sort of fade out. And you're now going to take the level 1 harm incorporeal.
So I have.
Anyway, you can resist either of those, but they're 2 separate resistance rolls.
So I have 2 special armors. Tell me if either one of these will apply here. So I have Savvy. You may expend your special armor to resist a consequence from deception or persuasion. And then I have Ordained. You may expend your special armor to resist a supernatural consequence or to push yourself when you contend with arcane forces.
Yeah, I would say you can do both of those for each of the consequence. You can resist each one with the other.
All right, I'll burn that, and everything went fine.
Yeah, so tell me, what does that look like fictionally? How do you?
I think maybe I mutter a little spell under my breath and wiggle my fingers, and Ellis starts to say, "I know we have. I guess actually we have a line on mind control, so let me change that."
I mean, the spell can just stop him from can make you look less wraith-like, right? I mean, that's
what if it scrambles his language so it comes out in wraith speak and the humans around can't understand it?
Sure. So he looks good. Yeah, that like that. Sure, thank you. So I'll do that, and then let's see the deception or persuasion part. Somebody, I'm not sure how the other
I mean,
part would look.
that handles both of them, right?
Yeah,
Like,
probably.
meaning, like if he can't talk, he can't say either of the things he just said.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, so I think I think at that when he gets tell me if you're okay with this, because I don't want this to feel like too much of an additional consequence. But I think he loses his mind a little bit with that spell, and he ignores Honorius and it's just like making a beeline out. But I think instead, right? I think instead of going for the students, I think he's just like charging right at that group of students, and as he does, but not the students that are burning down the house, or not the rioting students, the ones on the bucket brigade.
I was thinking maybe you're going the same direction, but I think maybe getting Kevin involved in this.
Right.
So
right. They're
that where
on
you're
Kevin's.
going?
It's the
Yeah.
ones on Kevin's bucket brigade.
right, or if it's more dramatic, maybe he goes for Shaban.
So I don't think we're. I mean, if
Not that- we're not at that
everyone
point yet.
wants that,
Okay.
I don't know that we're quite ready for that, are we?
No, just an idea.
I'm.
What
It
do you
sounds like
think,
I'm
Kevin?
gonna fight him either way, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I'm
Like,
curious
if
what
they-
you could.
If an angry wraith babbling wraith speak is charging against the students that I have trying to fight back the fire, I am drawing my cool wraith whip sword and saying, Lord, you may have been once, but a wraith is a wraith, and I will bring you down.
Sure, and like I don't. There's no. You don't have to roll to goad him, right? He's itching for a fight. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I'd love to engage in single combat with him using my fancy
and he pulls-
silver wraith restraining whip.
He pulls this gigantic, glowing blue claymore off his back. This huge sword. He could never have wielded it in life, right? And just like starts swinging it at you. How do you? I assume you're going to try to use finesse. What's it look like as you're fighting him?
Yeah, I think Sir Kevin has gotten cannier, right? Like so it's he still loves the thrill of the charge, but he's willing to duck and dodge and kind of try to wear the opposition out now, because it's an important survival skill in clearing out the raids in the Lost Isles. So he's gonna be doing like a whole trying to goad the wraith into overcommitting, right? Trying to get him to just to swing too hard and overextend himself and provide an opening for Sir Kevin.
Sure. Yeah. And so go ahead and roll that finesse. You're going to push yourself? Would you like to hear a devil's bargain? Is anybody helping?
Let me just go over what we're starting off with.
Yeah. It's I'd say risky great.
Risky great. I've got 3 dice in
Actually,
finesse.
I take it back. You're fighting a wraith in hand-to-hand combat, a tough wraith, a serious wraith. It's desperate. Great.
Cool. Well, when I roll a desperate action, I get plus 1d if I also take minus 1d to any resistance rolls.
Sure.
And when I use finesse to engage in single combat, I get plus 1 effect.
Well, so that's what's getting you to great.
Okay, cool. So that's already factored in.
Yeah.
I'm at 4 right now. I'd be happy to hear if anyone is helping me.
I would like to help, 'cause I mean, I'm out there.
Yeah, you're
I've-
out there.
I've already
Yeah,
directed, the other students to stop starting shit on fire.
Yeah, they haven't been listening, but
Yeah, but enough that to resist that consequence, right?
Yep.
So, how do I help here though?
Sir Kevin resisted the consequence with the Bucket Brigade.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah. No, but I resisted something by yelling at the.
Yeah, Kath isn't bringing in his army. Or his...
And you resisted Honorius.
Oh, and
yeah.
Honorius is
partially.
right.
And I did that by shouting at the students and telling them
Yeah,
to stop doing. Yeah. I'm trying to think of how I'm helping out here because I don't want to step on Sir Kevin's toes in any way.
Do you want a suggestion?
Sure.
You clear the students out, the Bucket Brigade out of the way, so that he doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I start kind of gathering people up and shouting commands and getting them out of there.
Yeah,
Sure.
taking command, absolutely. And I'll like give you a nod, right? Like, you know, we fought alongside each other. It's been a year, but we're back in the groove, right?
Sure.
And what would a devil's bargain be if I wanted to hear one of those?
I mean, I want one that you might want to take. I have a couple I think of, but you just won't accept them, and that's not interesting. I think it's got to be something like, I mean, that doesn't work. Does anyone have an idea for a devil's bargain? I'll just throw it out to the crowd.
I want to get Fan involved somehow.
Yeah, she's not really here. We can put her here. But I don't know that Sir Kevin cares that much about Fan.
No.
Who does Sir Kevin care about? Sir Kevin cares about
Well, I care about my uncles.
You care about your uncles. That's right. Oh, and Sir Rodri is here. Yeah, that's good. I think what happens is the devil's bargain is this. It's not necessarily connected to the action here, but I think like it's that Owena sees that this is slipping away, right? And so Broderick decides to take Rodri as a hostage.
Oh man.
Broderick, I mean, Owena tells him to, right?
Like
but
the negotiations break down suddenly. Like, you know, one of her lieutenants is grabbing one of Siobhan's lieutenants.
Exactly.
Oh, poor Uncle Rodri. Yeah, I'll take that devil's bargain.
Sure. Okay.
Cool. I'm rolling 6 dice.
Mm-hmm.
And dueling this dangerous wraith.
Yeah. How many 6s?
None yet. One fell off the table. So
Gonna have to re-roll that one.
the highest is a 4.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, that's pretty good. Don't be upset about that. That's I mean, what was your goal? Like, did you want to you've got the sword. You're good at what you're doing.
The goal was to get him basically to have him entangled in the whip, right? Like to end up with he's been swinging this, and then he realizes that Sir Kevin has circled around him and has drawn the silver whip to surround him, such that I can kind of drag him wherever I want.
You've
right?
got him. He is bound. He is tied tight.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a desperate consequence.
Yeah.
And that desperate consequence is that. And I think also, by the way, as a part of that, right? That's 3 ticks on the on the impress Honorius clock too, which gets you there. Interestingly, but I think Owena screams, just kill the hostage. And Broderick Mays, cut your uncle's throat.
No.
You can resist it. You have -1d.
It's true, I do.
And I think anyone who resists it gets the -1d, even if they protect. I think that's the.
Yeah. Okay. Does someone else want to resist it?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
I
I
will.
give you -1 dice for this.
I'm resisting this one. I'm going to use my ability Imposing am going to mark a special armor to resist a consequence of failed negotiations.
Yep, that's that. No, that's. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Overall, it's because negotiations were failed. I, even if
and I think that what Siobhan does is when they grab Rodri as a hostage, she looks at Anarius and she says, "This is neutral ground. That is tantamount to a declaration of war."
Yeah, and Broderick holds as Owena is screaming, "Just kill him!" And Broderick's not listening. Right. I think this is like the breakdown here as she is she's kind of lost control. And Honorius knows this. Right. I don't want to end the sortie right here quite yet, but I think Honorius is on your side, right? He's like I think there needs to be he's like well, Owena, it seems you can't control your students. You can't even control your direct vassals. It seems to me that these negotiations are a sham. And if you refuse to concede, then I'm going to have to bring the Empress's troops, right, in a ship transport, right, in port, up in the port, up in Tywell Port, here on the side of Lady Siobhan to end this. So, Owena, will you bend the knee and rule under Lady Siobhan, or will this be a fight to the bitter end? And she looks so furiously enraged, and her vassals are looking at her. There's still a knife on Rodri's throat. Cariad is there, and Siobhan, you have an opportunity here, and you're going to be queen, right? You've filled the clock. You've done what you need to do to be queen. But I think this is one last opportunity to sort of decide how your rule is going to begin. Is what I'll say. And I'll say she will not concede without something, right? You need to. There's a lot of things you could do to push her to do that. Sort of like this is going to be based on the die roll, and you hear your mother whisper, and it's almost not a whisper. It's almost like you're hearing her in your head. But this voice that you've grown to know very well over this past year, and over the past year has begun to sound more and more and more like the voice you remember from your childhood. And you're right, saying to you, a false Derek cannot be trusted. So you know what she wants. And I don't know if any members of the retinue want to shout some advice to Siobhan before she makes her statement, before she decides how she wants to handle this.
I think maybe there was that same flashback to our little tea party, before this all happened, and me saying something like, "When your moment comes, you must strike and you must be decisive."
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a flashback to last night where, like, you're talking. It's the end of the meeting, and you've had a few drinks, and you're all sort of like, and if she is at our mercy, what should we do?
Right.
I don't know if anyone else wants to interject anything at that moment. Back then. No. Okay.
I do, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
Oh.
Sir Kevin.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's just again him saying, you told me when the time came you'd remember who you are underneath that crown.
Yeah. And so, Siobhan, what do you want to do?
Yeah, Siobhan. We're in the room in the university. The chaos is all breaking out in the windows. Siobhan puts her head in her hands when she starts to hear Sarah's voice in her head, and then she, puts her hands down on the table and she says, he says, a false Derek cannot be trusted. You have to renounce your name. That is the only condition on which I will let you live, Owena. You have to renounce my name.
Yeah, and is that a command? Is that a sway? What is that?
That is a command. This is not a sway. I am not making an argument. I am telling her.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. So she looks up at you, and she grimaces, and to be clear, right? You don't have the power to just like execute her now, right? This is it's war, right? Which is the war continues, but you will win it. It will just hurt more, right? So that's fine. So yeah, so she grimaces at you, and are you going to push yourself? Are you going to? There's no devil's bargains here anymore. I mean, if you want one, you can. It will be something like ongoing rebellion throughout the.
Yeah, I'll push myself, but
push yourself. So yeah, is anyone helping? I'm curious.
Is it plausibly helpful if Sir Kevin like has this this wraith outside and at our mercy already? Like, is that if I
absolutely?
Yeah.
I mean, even just dragging him up and in, right?
Yeah, like basically, like he's ready to like Sir Kevin's ready to like execute whatever sentence Siobhan speaks on this wraith, and that serve as a warning.
Sure. Yeah. And this is controlled. Great.
Okay.
Basically, you're in control, and if you do it, if it succeeds, she does the thing. There's no.
Yeah. I'm rolling with 5 dice. And that is 5 highest.
That is 5. So what does that look like? What does a 5 look like here? I mean, she'll do it. She'll renounce the name, and she says, but she'll say, she walks up to you and gets up in your face. And she's short. She's like, you're pretty tall, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And she's small. She's like 5'2", 5'3", right? And she looks up at you and she says, I will formally renounce the name, but know that know that it's a lie, and that know with certainty that I am truly a Derek, and that and that I am above you in the line of succession, and the consequences, you believe her.
Yeah.
You can resist that.
No, I believe her.
Amazing. And she takes a knee. And renounces her name of Derek, renounces her renounces her claim to the throne, and at this moment, like, her lieutenants all swear fealty to you. There's obviously going to be some dithering around about what happens to them, about and I imagine Arkina in her epilogue will talk a little bit about some of that. And those who have lost land, whether they will regain it, and but we don't have to get into that kind of haggling. Now it's time for the coronation roll. So
Can we take 5?
Yeah, I was about
before
to say, but before we do the coronation roll, let's take 5. Let's come back at 38, and we'll do the coronation roll. Yeah. So the way this works, and I'm going to share. Let me share my screen so we can all see that. Let me get the right screen up first. So yeah. So let me share my screen. So the way this works is that there is we can do it this way. This is better. There we go. So there's this coronation roll. Zoom in on that. Basically, we go around and everyone rolls the action they will rely upon most in securing the claimant's rule, and based on their role, they answer the question. So I think we're gonna sort of both general epilogue and your answer to the question. Yeah. So how about we start with you, Sir Kevin? Are you cool with going first? The claimant goes last.
Claimant goes last. Yeah, I can go first for this.
So what action will you reply upon most in securing the claimant's rule?
I'm going to go with command for this.
Tell me how.
I think the right, the like, there's holdouts for Queen Arwina, and so the key thing is, when the Imperial reinforcements come, Sir Kevin commands them, right? He as a native of Dole and someone who can speak to the soldiers of the Empire, he leads the Imperial the Imperial effort to stamp out the last resistance to Queen Siobhan's rule.
Right. There doesn't have to be much of it there, but yeah, it definitely happens.
Yeah.
For sure. Great. So let's roll that command, which I don't know what it is. You tell me.
I got 2 dice for command.
Great. Let's roll them and see how you do.
4 and a 4.
Yeah. So what sacrifices do you make to secure the claimant's power? And tell me a little bit about also that can shape your overall epilogue, but where do you end up?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I'll start with basics and then check in about the other thought I have. So I think Sir Kevin never settles down anywhere, right? I think he leads this effort, and then he keeps finding things that need to be done, right, that will allow him to ride out and risk his life in some way, and fight against anyone who in any way questions Queen Siobhan, right? And never starts a family, never kind of accepts a more kind of permanent non-transitory place in Dole, because he just has to be constantly traveling the kingdom, troubleshooting. So that's my general vision, and then my question is, does anybody else have big thoughts about Lady Sarah Derrick in this epilogue?
I was going to banish her.
Yeah, you've got your wraith banishing plan.
I'm open to if you had plans for her. I'm glad to hear it though.
I pictured a scene right back at Iron Burl, where Sarah Derrick is walking into her own throne room, and there's a cloaked figure there, and the audience thinks it's Vendon, and then Sir Kevin pushes back his hood, and he says, I know that it's your voice that's whispering in her ear, pushing her to rule harshly forget who she is. And I know she'll never forgive me for it, but I'm going to stop that. Right. And the scene can cut there, and we don't know if Sir Kevin succeeds or not. But I like him facing down Sarah Derrick at the end here as the last answer to what sacrifices do you make to secure the claimant's rule.
I mean, one thing that's worth saying is at this point, right? Like doing something to Sarah Derrick doesn't stop the wraiths, and certainly not in Clarion Glen, right? But there are. Right, like there are communities of wraiths now, right? There are wraiths who have fought alongside, soldiers and are friends with them, right? Like there's something eerie about it, but also, like I said, they're not quite human, but they are people.
Yeah,
and so like that, many of them now. So that can also frame Vendon how you want to think about this. You know what I mean? And maybe now we go to. Is everyone okay with that ending for Sir Kevin there?
Maybe I need so my goal is to get rid of them also. So, and I have this this long-term project that I completed. Mm-hmm. So maybe I need a night of true valor to
maybe this is the two of you together.
Yeah, so maybe I somehow anoint you with the power you need to do what I want and what you want also, to end her, and also through her to draw all the intelligent wraiths out of our realm,
Yeah, that's fascinating, especially because Sir Kevin usually objected to Vendon's methods, right, during much of the campaign to claim the crown. But I could see him coming around to work with Vendon on this this underhanded but needed scheme.
So let's take a step back, and Vendon, why don't you roll your coronation roll, and then we'll sort of do some of your epilogue and converge on this scene, right? The two of you.
So yeah, I think mine's got to be Prey.
Sure.
So
I'll
go ahead.
Overall, right? So tell me, how are you using it to secure the claimant's rule? How are you using it?
So I'm visualizing. We're back in Ironborough, and we see my agents, Drifter and all the other agents have brought all of Shaban's paintings to my mansion. So we're in that gallery that we had some scenes in, and it's full of all of Shaban's expressionist paintings, and they're all covered. They've got gray runes on them that have been painted on them, and Kevin is kneeling before me. And I have that vial of that golden liquid that Sarah Derrick gave me back in a previous episode. Mm-hmm. And I say something like, I need to mix this with your blood. Give me your palm, Kevin. And if he's into it, I cut his palm and I mix it with this golden liquid, and I say, you now have the ability to end this thing. You must use your whip, and you must capture Sarah Derrick and speak these words. And I say some words in some bizarre language.
Yeah, and I think Sir Kevin's hand is perfectly still, which is unusual because he's now constantly twitching, except in high adrenaline situations.
Sure. Yeah. Did you roll your dice, Vendon?
No, I did not.
So
here we go.
Those, and let's answer that question too.
5.
So tell me, what sacrifices you make to secure the claimant's rule?
So I think Kevin walks away, to go do his thing, and I walk out on the balcony, and like a cut opens in reality, and we see the Matisse colors of the paintings that we talked about, and he walks through, and it closes, and that's the last anybody sees of Vendon.
Sure, and just to clarify, this isn't just about this thing you did with Sir Kevin. It's not just about Sarah Derrick. It's about banishing the wraiths.
Yeah, I think it's all the. I think it's not all the wraiths. I think it's the intelligent wraiths, right?
Sure. I mean, I think one thing that, as a consequence of that, right, is right, Dole is much weakened.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's maybe part of the sacrifice there, right? And so the Southern Kingdoms, right, Crowben and Giran, start to sort of encroach a little bit. But you have the Empress's favor, and that's something, Shaban. Arkina, what action do you rely upon most in securing the claimant's rule? And talk about that, and also, your various epilogue things, and we'll ask a question too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely skirmish, right? Like it's, it's commanding the troops. It's going out and dealing with the sort of usurpers, remnants who don't want to give up power so easily. It's I think that we probably get like a flash of a scene of all of the remaining Mays except Iron, with their getting executed as traitors to the crown.
And yeah, I think despite the fact that they all bent the knee rather quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Broderick Mays was the closest ally. So
yeah.
What about Francis?
And yeah, I think that I think that after sort of after this the fighting seems to be all done. Arkina removes her armor, and I think gets puts on that dress from the party at Venden's mansion, and heads to the monastery. And we get a scene of sort of like, I feel like there's that sort of like cliched scene in movies of like someone going to like visit their elderly relative at like a nursing home or whatever. I think it's sort of like that.
We can play the scene if you want.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
Yeah, I think I sit down next to him and I just say, "Hello, Father."
I don't think you were ever allowed to call me that.
No, there were a lot of things that I wasn't allowed.
Well, you've certainly shown everyone else how right they were about that.
I suppose.
But then I guess you are what we made you, aren't you?
I don't think she really says much to that. I think she's sort of, sighs a little bit.
I think just to be clear, I'm leaning a little bit into sort of him being a jerk, right? He's not trying to be comforting. He's like, so he says, so what brings you to my last refuge?
I've just been doing some cleaning up. And Father, I wished so hard that you would have made this more difficult for me. And she pulls a dagger from inside her skirts and drives it up in between his ribs.
And I think he screams, right? And I'm not gonna it's ugly and it's slow unless you decide to make it faster.
No, I think I think it's ugly and slow. I think it has to be.
Yeah, and do you leave his body for the monks to clean up?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So why don't you roll that skirmish? And
All right. Five.
5. So what sacrifices do you make to secure the claimant's rule?
I never see Fan again.
Yeah. How does that secure the claimant's rule?
I mean, part of it is that, I'm out on the battlefield, right?
Right.
Like constantly.
Right.
So
So-
that's part of it. But the other part of it, I think that it somehow sort of, I know that, what's her name? Fan's mom, Lady Riyadh, is that it?
Yeah.
Is not the most stalwart ally. And I think that it's just, I don't want to bring any more complication into things. I don't want there to be any sort of, ammunition, or, room for blackmail or whatever, like anything like that. And I think that that's
Sure.
how, if that makes sense.
Sure. And with the Wraiths gone, there's certainly plenty of war going on without that extra sort of intimidation factor. So finally, we come to the Queen, Siobhan Derrick. I suppose back in Ironburl, unless you decide to rule from Wyvern City or between the two.
I think from Wyvern City still, because Sarah Derrick is still ruling in Ironburl for a while.
Oh, I guess we didn't talk about the time frame there. Sure, we can expand that however we want. Yeah, so I don't know if you wanna roll first, or you wanna talk through a little epilogue first, or how you want to do this. But either
Yeah, I'll roll first to see.
yeah, sure. So what action do you rely upon most in securing your rule?
I think that I'm gonna rely on command. I think that
Sounds like Siobhan.
yeah, at this point we've gone past the time for argument, and in the final days of the final months of securing the Queenship of Dole, Siobhan has become a commander. She is not asking anymore. She is telling. Let me roll with me to work. Four.
So again, what sacrifices do you make? Everyone's getting that same middle spot.
Lots of fours. That is. I think that well, let's zoom out a little bit. Actually,
Sure.
I think that how long after the transition do you think it is that the intelligent wraiths are eradicated by Venden and Kevin? Let's ask.
Venden and Kevin, what do you think?
Couple months.
I was,
I'm open.
I was
Whatever.
picturing at least a year, so Sir Kevin can, spend time riding around, suppressing Siobhan's enemies before finally coming around to Sarah Derrick, who he considers
Yeah,
the final
that
leader.
works. Sure.
I was also thinking like a year. A year works. So it is like a year on after, and I think that actually, barring the riots and the marauding wraiths and all of the regular bad stuff, Siobhan has had a pretty charmed first year in power, and then one day the intelligent wraiths disappear. As quickly as they sort of showed up in Dole, they are gone. And I think that Clarion Glen is totally overrun, because Sarah Derrick had been using wraiths, as a labor source, not only intelligent wraiths but unintelligent wraiths, that other wraiths could communicate with, and now they just there is an army of wraiths, you know, that has essentially made Ironburl unlivable. So I have lost my home. In order to secure the claimant's rule, we have to. Clarion Glen is lost. You know, we fortify the border to sort of keep the, you know, huge mass of wraiths inside and away from the settlements. It is the start of a lost isle. Yeah.
It's worth noting that right, we said there are some intelligent wraiths in the Lost Isles, so who knows, maybe over time, right?
Maybe
As
maybe
it's
they'll come back.
overrun. Yeah. Probably
Um,
not Sarah Derrick, though.
Probably not Sarah Derrick. And I think that Siobhan, the public image of Siobhan is very complicated, right? There are some people who think that the intelligent wraiths, that the wraith people were, you know, a blessing, and there were some that think that they were a curse, and especially once they disappear, you know, after a year of sort of existing in Dole, half as a legend and half as these very important figures. A lot of people, well, a lot of people think that Siobhan banished, you know, the wraiths, right? But I think that Siobhan becomes sort of a reclusive queen after the banishing ritual takes place. She, to some extent, she, you know, she starts wearing mourning clothes again for her mother, and I, you know, it is a very monumental time in her reign. But yeah, I mean, I think that she succeeds. She takes the crown. The realm survives through all of this turmoil, through the sacrifice of Clarion Glen, and throughout it all, she wonders: did I do a better job than Owena Derrick, or did I just ruin my country even more? Until the day that she passes away, and her children take the crown as the new King or Queen Derrick.
And yeah, I think that's where we end. This has been an incredible game. Thank you so much, folks. I hope anyone who may have watched it enjoyed it too. And yeah, that's beautiful epilogues, everybody. Have a great night.